Thank you all for joining the Rotary Club of Motorcycle Rotarians this evening. Before I introduce our speaker, I just wanted to see if anybody had any happy thoughts, anything good they wanted to throw out there for the audience. Mr. Keith.
Yeah, I've got a happy buck because on Saturday, Carol and I will celebrate our 45th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
thank you.
Anybody else? Anything? Anybody want to share anything before we start?
Oh, just one thing. Supposedly, I got a thing from Paya and Club Runner that our pay issue is fixed.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's good. I paid mine. I think I paid mine, but I'll double check and make sure that it went through because I know if it didn't, I'll just redo it. It's not a problem.
Yeah, there were people getting kickbacks saying it wouldn't take it and all that. Went into the system. Why it got changed, I don't know. It was showing an account we haven't had for 3 years as being the account. And like 3 weeks ago, it was fine. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, it started acting up.
You know what they call that? They call that a system update. Somebody updated something. And I've been dealing with issues like that over the last couple of days. And it's, yeah, lots of fun. Well, I am.
Computers are going to make your life easy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Computers are going to be, yeah. Here's the hammer. Let's all kind of knock ourselves in the head once or twice. Anything else? Anyone? You all good? All right. Well, I am going to introduce Carol Birchfield. Now, some of you may remember when we did our inductions last year. Carol actually attended, and she was in the middle of this really, really cool year-long journey around the country. And so she has come to talk about her wonderful adventure this evening. I know Carol. I have ridden with Carol. Carol, actually, the irony is I met Uda because of Carol. So it's a weird small world. So I am going to go ahead and pass this on to Carol, and you can begin your share anytime now.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Can y'all hear me okay?
That's fine.
Okay,
Yes,
great. Well, I do ride a bike. I ride a Yamaha FJ09, so I can't be all that bad if I ride, right? Anyway.
Exactly.
I guess I'm kind of semi-retired, which I kind of have a hard time saying that. I worked most of my career in, all of my career in the oil and gas industry, mainly here in Houston for natural gas companies, mainly doing business development, marketing, project development. So that's kind of my background. Didn't really have anything to do with the trip, but I guess it helped allow me to do the trip. So anyway, I'm going to try to share my screen, and it'll kind of help me walk through what I wanted to talk about. And so I'm not real familiar with sharing my screen, so you have to bear with me a minute. We'll see how this works. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm going to, okay, so what I believe I was asked to speak about was our trip, and it was a journey called America's Great Loop, and it is done on a boat, and it basically circumnavigates the East Coast, and we all fly a white burgee, otherwise known as a flag, and when we complete the loop, then we are allowed to fly a gold flag, and we then call ourselves gold loopers. So this is a picture of my husband and I and our cat, who also did the loop. You'll notice she has a little gold ribbon because she's a gold looper also. And we did this trip basically November of 20 through October of 21. So I'm gonna give you a little summary of the trip and talk a little bit about, yeah, I think I'm a real strong believer. It's important to have kind of big dreams. in life. It just makes life a lot more meaningful, and show you some pictures. So anyway, I'm just going to get into it. You're welcome to interrupt me at any time, or you can just ask questions when I get done, either way. But somehow you'll have to get my attention to get me to stop. You can wave at me. All right. So this over here is a picture on the left. I have this on quite a few slides, and you'll see this little emblem over here. Do you see my cursor when I use it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is America's Great Loop Cruisers Association, which we're a member of, and they gave me some template slides that I could use. But this outline is basically what the Great Loop is. So we started from Texas and we had to get over to the east side of Louisiana, but then we got into the intercoastal, and it basically circumnavigates Florida, the whole East Coast, up through the Hudson River across. You can either go into Canada several ways. A lot of it depends on your air height and your air draft, what you can clear for bridges, and whether you can go through Canada or whether you go through the Erie Canal. Since we were doing this trip during COVID, we were not allowed to go into Canada. So we ended up taking the Erie Canal route, which limited what boats could go through there because of the height restrictions. We went through the Great Lakes, through Lake Erie, all around Michigan, up to the Les Cheneaux Islands, Drummond Island, around, and then down here at Chicago, we got into the rivers, and a bunch of different rivers came down south. And then instead of taking the Mississippi all the way down because it's very commercial and less fuel is available, then we ended up taking basically Tennessee River, which then turns into the Tenn-Tom Waterway, and came down at Mobile. And then we came back across Louisiana back home. And that took about a year. And I'll show you in a minute why a year kind of makes sense for this trip. But just to a little bit on kind of frequently asked questions about the Great Loop. We did it in a boat called a Great Harbor in 37. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. And I kind of alluded to that there are some air draft limitations as you go around the loop, and it's due to bridges that some bridges open, but there are a few that don't. And where they don't, the lowest bridges, you have to have a boat that can get under 20 feet. And it's usually recommended that you want a boat that's not deeper than 5 foot. And you also want to have at least a 250-mile fuel range. And that may seem like, oh, well, all boats could do that, but you'd be surprised at the type of boats that do it, ones that are really large, and then ones that, I think even a jet ski has done the loop. So, and people do it in all different ways. Some people, we did it continuous in a year, but some people may go travel for a couple of months, leave their boat and go home. Some people will do it over multiple years. And some people just whiz through it in 3 or 4 months. And this is a picture of our boat, the Great Harbor in 37. This is a picture in the Bahamas. That was one of the side trips that we took. And so, it's kind of like a tiny house inside. It's got, we sleep up in the front, and it's got a little kitchen over to the side, and it has an engine room down below. And then kind of in this upper area is a galley table. It's where we steer from, kind of has a couch, otherwise known as a salon on a boat. And has a little swim platform off the back, and we carry a little boat to go to get from the boat to shore when we anchor out. And there's a little boarding platform in the back that we can step down to get into the boat. And then we store our anchor up here in the front, where many times, like in the Bahamas, for that whole 3 months, we anchored out the whole time. So it's important to have a good anchor, so you feel comfortable sleeping, that you're still going to be there in the morning where you dropped your hook the night before. Oh, and we did kind of interesting enough, had some solar panels to help recharge our batteries. And then we have a diesel generator inside also to charge our batteries. So it's interesting when people talk about the Great Loop, they always want to know, oh, how much does it cost and all this? And it's really kind of like life at home. It just costs whatever you have, whatever you can afford. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on whether you like to go out to eat all the time, whether, spend a lot of money at bars or, whether, it's just however you live at home. That's probably the way you're going to live on the loop. And there's ways to do it on the cheap, and there's ways to to spend a ton of money. So I always just kind of say it's the way you would vacation or do life at home, that's probably the way you're gonna do the loop, because people always want to know what it's going to cost. But really some of the two most expensive things of the cost of the trip, or when you stay at marinas, and fuel. And now we know that most people doing the loop use diesel fuel, and diesel's a lot more expensive this year than it was last year, but those are kind of the two most expensive things. And you eat at home, you eat on the loops. There's a lot of costs that are just the same, whether you're at home or whether you're doing this trip. And these are kind of some interesting statistics about the loop, and kind of about like the number of people that complete it every year. And at the very bottom, you can see there, typically each year, maybe 150 boats complete this trip. In 2021, there was only 130, I think, because of COVID, there was a little less. But just some statistics, like kind of pre-COVID, what's the average number of people that do certain things? 26, almost 27,000 finished the Boston Marathon in 19, over 1,000 completed, hiking the Appalachian Trail, almost 900 climbed Mount Everest, and 120 successful swims across the English Channel. So not that many people do the loop, but it's interesting when you're out there at any one point in time. I think they say that there's more than 300 boats doing it. It's just, some of them, we're all at different points in the loop, and some people put their boat up and some people don't complete it. And, some people do it seasonally. So, but what's interesting is we all kind of travel in the same seasons. So we kind of leapfrog around each other, and is, you run into each other multiple times as you're doing this trip. And some other statistics about the trip: we traveled through 21 states, which, you kind of think it's all on the eastern side. It's kind of surprising we went through that many states. We did go to the Bahamas, and you can do the loop in as few as 5,000 miles. You'll see in a minute when I talk a little bit more detail about our trip, we actually traveled almost 10,000 miles. We did over 100 locks, and a lock is basically where the water level from one side of the lock to the next side of the lock is a different level, and they either raise you or lower you. And you end up, there's a little bit of turbulence in the lock, and you have to hold on to a line, and the water level goes up when you're in there, or it goes down. And so it's really interesting. Some of the locks, they might raise or lower you over 100 feet. Sometimes the locks are small, sometimes they're large. Sometimes we were going through with commercial traffic. It's just, they were all quite different. And we did the loop in a year. And that's kind of average, but as I said, people do it all differently. And so a little bit about the route, why a year makes sense, is it's really traveling through the seasons. As you can imagine, you don't want to be up in the Great Lakes and in the north during the winter. And, you really want to avoid the Gulf Coast and Florida and the East Coast during hurricane season. So the typical path that people follow on this trip is during the winter, you stay down south in Florida, and many people will go over to the Bahamas, do a side trip. There's a lot of kind of trips that are off the path of this exact route, and we call those side trips. Then as winter is over and it starts warming up, then we head up the East Coast and do that in the spring, and then plan to be like in the Chesapeake Bay, kind of the May timeframe. And then the canals up in New York, they open around June 1st, once, the winter, everything's thawed and they get the water levels back. And so then we traveled through the Erie Canal, kind of the June timeframe. And then in the summer, you're in the Great Lakes. And boy, that was nice, spending the summer in the Great Lakes and missing out on the Texas summer and hurricane season down here. And then in the fall is when typically you get into the rivers and come down. So hurricane season, you're in the Great Lakes and then in the rivers. And then you come down in the rivers and try not to get to the Gulf Coast while hurricane season's still going on. And that's basically why it kind of makes sense, if you're doing it on a continual basis, to like do it in a year. If you wanted to do it multiple years and spend more time in one place, more than one season, then sometimes people will haul their boat out of the water and leave it what they call in the hard, either in covered storage or just out in the open. And they may have to winterize the boat and then come back after the winter and spend another season in a certain area. We knew several people that did that. So to the right, this is actually the actual route of our trip, and includes quite a few side trips. And that's why on our, let me see, on our trip was actually closer to 10,000 miles. So we left Seabrook, Texas, 1st of November in 2020. And we, did, like I mentioned, just following this route along what we call the intra-coastal waterway. And it's a fairly protected waterway, a rough canal. There's a lot of open bodies of water along the way, but it's fairly protected. And went through New Orleans, and there's a whole set of commercial locks that are kind of difficult getting through New Orleans because the commercial traffic kind of takes priority. And then we traveled over to Florida and went south down through the Florida Keys. And some of the just kind of the highlights of our trip. We did, as we went down to Florida, we visited the Everglades on our way down to the Keys. And then for the winter, instead of staying in Florida, my husband and I, we kind of have a tendency, we like the less touristy areas. So that's kind of the way we did our trip, where some people, they want to see all the places that, are advertised and that are touristy. But anyway, so that's just a little bit of the way we did our trip, was kind of visited less touristy areas. So we spent the winter in the Bahamas. We had been to the Bahamas maybe over 20 years before, and really like the clear water and beaches, and we love nature and getting out and exploring. So that's what we chose to do, and really enjoyed our time in the Bahamas. Lots of snorkeling, and at the end I'm going to show you some pictures. But the one thing about going to the Bahamas, you really have to be self-sufficient. There's not Towboat US, who we have here in the US, that you can just call anytime you run out of gas. And so you really have to think ahead about going to the Bahamas, about having a lot of spare parts, because one, they don't have spares that you're going to need, and it's just difficult to get things shipped over there, and real expensive, and only certain islands have airports where parts can be flown in. And then food was like maybe 5 times as expensive as in the States. And not a large variety. They always tell you, if there's something that you really want, you better take it with you. So anyway, that was the Bahamas. And then we headed up the East Coast. We went up to the Cape Fear River, to Wilmington, North Carolina. We visited some family up there. We went up the Potomac River to Washington, D.C. A lot of the museums were closed, but we saw a lot of memorials and things. Oh gosh, trying to think of, on the way up the Potomac River, we stopped at, I'm going to remember it, but anyway, we stopped there. And then we took the Western Erie Canal, which was, since Canada was closed, and that was really interesting. They really cater to boaters in that area. And we took some interesting side trips. There, there's a couple of Finger Lakes in New York, and we went down Seneca Lake down to Watkins Falls. That was beautiful down there. We stopped at Niagara Falls in Buffalo as we went around Michigan, we went to the Les Cheneaux Islands up on Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and really enjoyed Mackinac Island. We had never been there, and we'd gotten some electric bikes delivered to us in Charlevoix before we went to Mackinac Island, and we violated the rules by bringing our electric bikes, but we were really careful and respectful, and got away with it. And as we came down the rivers, we went up Tennessee River, which I think is about 500 miles each way, which doesn't sound like long in a car, but it is when we only travel at about 7 miles an hour. So we go at the speed that, a lot of people could drive. So, could run. I'm sorry. We traveled the speed. A lot of people could jog. So, in fact, one time on the Erie Canal, we were traveling along, and there was a jogger over on the jogging path, and he was going faster than we were. That was kind of funny. But when we went up the Tennessee River, we went all the way up to Knoxville, and actually visited the national park up there, the Smoky Mountains. I've got a picture of a bear there. And the Tennessee River is just really laid back. We enjoyed that. And just beautiful. And then we finished the trip the end of October of last year. And when you complete this trip, they call it crossing your wake. And we did that at Dauphin Island in Mobile Bay. So just kind of, here's a little bit of like, what did it cost us? How much diesel? And, y'all may not be that interested in it, but sometimes when I'm talking to other boaters, these are kind of key things. They like to hear what it costs other people so they can gauge what it might cost them. As I mentioned, we almost went twice the miles because of all the side trips we did, probably going down to the Bahamas, and the Tennessee River is an extra 1,000 miles. So, but the one thing about our boat, and a lot of things they tell you when you're considering purchasing a boat for this trip, is think about how much fuel a boat will use. And you can get a boat that will go fast, but then when they go fast, you can just, count this as you're counting, as the seconds go by, you can just see the dollars coming out of your bank account, because, some of them will use maybe, 30 gallons an hour, and, at, let's say $5 for diesel these days, that's $150 an hour, where we used about 2 gallons an hour. So on the whole trip, we used just under 3,000 gallons of diesel and spent about $8,000. So really, when you pick your boat, it really dictates a lot of your costs, because what your fuel economy is going to be. So interesting little tidbit for when you're choosing what kind of boat is, the kinds of engines and how you're going to use it. And a lot of times on the loop, we were going through no wake zones or places you had to slow down anyway. So the fact that our boat went slower wasn't that detrimental to us. And I mentioned there's ways like you can save money when you do a trip like this. So really along a lot of the trip, you have the option. You can go into a marina, or you can just anchor out and not pay for the night. Anchoring out places is free. So we probably are a little in the minority on this trip. Most people probably spent most nights at marinas, but we spent about 25% in marinas and 75% on the hook. On the hook, meaning on anchor. And so that's kind of a good way to, keep your costs down. But we would research, and when we were going to stay at a marina, a lot of them would have what they call courtesy cars, and they let you borrow the car to go shopping, run errands, and we would find, free docks along the way. I'm kind of known to be frugal. So, we would look when we were at visiting certain places, and if there's 3 marinas, we'd kind of shop for, okay, which one has the amenities and maybe the cost that worked for us. So the total trip, we spent about $45,000, and that included costs for routine repairs and replacement parts. And if you haven't owned a boat, the one thing is that they are always breaking. There's things always going wrong with them, and you just got to deal with it. I've already talked a little bit about our cruising style, but we anchored out a lot to, just, we kind of like less touristy areas. A lot of times we would, like in Tennessee, we would anchor out at a lot of state parks, and then go hike their trails and explore different areas. But yeah, it's interesting on the shopping thing, like groceries and stuff. There's groceries every, I mean, you know, you're, no matter where you are, you're going to find a grocery store, but a lot of people would use Instacart. And finally, halfway through, I started doing that, which was really helpful. And so, just like you can use Instacart, you know, here, you know, where you live, we could use Instacart anywhere along the loop. And we didn't necessarily have to be in a marina. There were times when I had them deliver it to a boat dock. You know, as long as it was someplace that I could get to shore and there's an address I could give them, well, they could deliver groceries there. So that was helpful. So a little bit about kind of, people always say, oh, was it everything you thought it was going to be? And it was really awesome, better than I could have thought. And, you know, some of the things that you worry about on the trip about, you know, breakdowns, how do we address them? You know, you could always have parts delivered no matter where you were. It's like, you know, you could deliver to a marina you were going to stay at. I even used Amazon lockers. I didn't realize it, but like UPS and, or CVS and Walgreens, like certain stores will take FedEx, some of them take UPS. And so, you can really get packages delivered almost anywhere. You know, even if you're, you know, obviously we weren't staying at a CVS, but you can just have them delivered to CVS and you just walk in and tell them you want to pick up your package. I thought that was kind of interesting. But there's, you know, a lot of people that are doing this trip that are familiar with the areas we were traveling in. Either they were from that area, and you'd be surprised about how many people that do this trip, they then do it again. And so then we would use those people as resources for, you know, where to go, what to do. I need help me with this. And then I mentioned we're a member of this organization called America's Great Loop Cruising Association, and they're a great resource. And so a lot of information we got from them too. And I'm going to show you some pictures and it'll be a little bit more meaningful. But my new motto is once is not enough. And it seems like a year is a long time to do this trip, but it's amazing because of the seasons, how you kind of have to keep moving, especially since you're only going 7 miles an hour, that you just can't see everything. And it really is amazing when you're traveling, you just get, you know, everything you're exposed to. It's like, it just opens your eyes and it gives you a different perspective that you don't get from home. And it's like, man, we met so many wonderful people all along this trip. And it's like, oh, these people from the East Coast really are nice, you know? And I know there's people from all over the country on this phone call. And, you know, what you realize is, you know, most people are just good people, no matter where they live, you know, and all this other stuff. So we really met some neat people. And it was kind of a history lesson wherever we went. You know, there was history that, you know, you've either read about, but when you're right in the middle of it, where it went on, it just takes a different meaning. In fact, I really haven't been much of a history buff, but when we got up into the Chesapeake Bay, and saw all those battlefields and historic places, it really took on a new life, a new meaning for me. And I was became a lot more interested in history. And people that other boaters that we talk to, we tell them, you just do the trip, just do it. And really kind of my motto is whatever your dream is, just do it. You know, there's never a perfect time for whatever your passion, your dream is. We always make up excuses. And I kind of related a little bit to like, and I don't have any kids, so it's funny I use this analogy, like having a baby. When's a good time? It's never a good time. You know, you just got to do it and you'll figure it out. And you know what, this might be a good time. Let me just see if I can show y'all some pictures and then I'm going to come back to this. So bear with me just a minute. And let's see if I can figure out, can y'all see this all right?
It hasn't changed yet.
Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front.
So Oh, wait, hold on one sec. Oh, there you go. Hey, you got it.
Okay. All right. So this is as we left, the day we left in Seabrook, Texas. We're heading out of the marina. And I'm just going to flip through these real quick because I could take forever. But I just thought this was a pretty bridge in Louisiana. I think this was Morgan City. So this is a place where we just side tied the boat to the dock. And then we could, it was easy to get to restaurants and stores, whatever. And it's interesting. So we had never met this group of people, and they were all from the area that we left from. And there was some delays at the locks in Louisiana being opened. And so we all got stuck at a place for 5 days and became the best of friends and still stay in contact. And I mean, after that 5 days, we all went our separate ways. But it's amazing how you can meet people that you've, some strangers you never met before, and you end up, you're killing time and you spend 5 days together, and all of a sudden it's like your lifelong friends. So, and it was kind of like that all along the loop. We saw lots of nature. Here's just a picture of a dolphin. And, I didn't include picture of an eagle, but on the rivers, we saw lots of eagles. I just thought this was a funny picture. This is like a typical place that we might anchor in Florida, just in, what was probably someone's backyard, but because it was off of the ICW, we had this beautiful view of these houses. And obviously the election had happened and Trump lost, and they had changed the sticker on their boat to say Ivanka in 2024. Oh, we, loved shelling on the beaches. This was in Fort Myers, Florida. So this is, how they celebrate Christmas, is decorating up their palm trees. This was in the Everglades over on the west coast of Florida, which is very remote. It's just a pretty sunset picture. And this was a manatee at a dock in Marathon, Florida, which I think they nickname them sea cows, but didn't see that many manatees. But you have to, when you're in an area that they're common, you have to be very careful about going slow so the boats don't injure them with your prop. I just thought that was a cute picture. Someone was in their dinghy looking at the manatees, but they had their little dog in a backpack. And when we were in Marathon, we were actually stayed on what's called a mooring. And they're down in the Florida Keys. We were there over, I guess this is Christmas. Yeah, you can see she's dressed as an elf. And this is actually a pump out boat that came to your boat to pump out the holding tank, for the toilet. But for Christmas Eve, they come around and they made eggnog and gave out to all the boaters. So they came and gave us eggnog via another little boat. It was kind of fun. And there's a captain and crew, Katie and my husband Russ. And this is when we first landed in the Bahamas, in Bimini. It's about a 60-mile trip over from the US. So not very long of a trip. And then here's some pictures just from us in the Bahamas. My husband, I like coconuts, so he was trying to knock down some coconuts from a tree for us, and he did. And yeah, we did some fishing along the way. That's kind of a small mahi. Otherwise, another name for it is a dolphin, but they're beautiful. I think we caught that on the way to Nassau. And just when we were in Nassau Harbor, we had to have a COVID test done there. This is the Atlantis that a lot of people are familiar with. And I had to take this for you guys in Nassau in the Bahamas, a picture of Rotary International. Looks like they meet Monday through Friday. And you know what? I had a couple other pictures, but I couldn't find them. So that's my only Rotary picture in here. We love to explore the beaches in the Bahamas and kind of local ruins. And so this was like on a very small island. It looked like it was boarded up, but that's the same picture you saw before. And we love to, typically in the Bahamas, people go to, when the cruisers on other boats, we'd all meet on the beach, like at sundown time, and have a drink and socialize and watch the sun go down. And have to show, I don't know if y'all are familiar, but over in Staniel Key in the Bahamas, they're famously known for these swimming pigs, and they were awful. They were not friendly. And anyway, but yeah, and I had this picture for Uta because she knows I like Buc-ee's. So I took a Buc-ee's flag. I did fly it over there in the Bahamas. And at sundown, it's typical that in the islands, you blow a conch horn as the sun is setting. It looks like I'm blowing it before the sun's setting, but there's me blowing a conch horn. And just real common that we gather on the beach, like I said, for sunset. And there's Russ. He got this with a spear, more like a Hawaiian sling when we would snorkel. This is a hogfish. And here's one of our favorite places in Hog Key in the Ragged Islands. We called that, you can see as a sign, Hog Key Yacht Club. And here's some lobster that he caught with the spearfish. It's actually what they call a slipper lobster that he's holding. And then the others are all spiny lobster. You know, they don't have the big claws like they do up in Maine. And Russ got to where he was known for making conch horns. So to make a conch shell into a horn, you kind of cut off this side over here and make it kind of like a trumpet mouthpiece. And then he carved our boat name and some stuff into that. So this is another pretty picture of the Bahamas. You can just see how clear that water is. It's just beautiful. And I think in this area, there's just us and one other little sailboat right there. And there's so many days when, you know, we were the only ones on a beach. Then we came back from the Bahamas, and this is going up the East Coast in Georgia. I think this is St. Simon Island. Anyway, it was a beautiful island with wild horses on it, and some ruins of a mansion there. And here we ran into some friends of ours in the Chesapeake Bay, and she was getting oysters straight off the oyster boat, and we grilled them for dinner. And it was interesting how she had befriended these fishermen, these oystermen, and they were always happy to give her oysters. One of our hobbies was lighthouses. So this was over at Fort Monroe in the Virginia, Norfolk area. So you'll see several pictures of lighthouses. This is over at St. Mary's. My husband, Russ, thought it was funny to take this picture of me. They had a little historic walking tour that was cool. And again, there was just tons of history. Mount Vernon, that's what I was trying to remember earlier. So this was Mount Vernon on the way up the Potomac. We anchored right out and spent the night there. And we went to DC, stopped at Arlington Cemetery. This actually was at the National Arboretum in DC. Not sure many people go over there, but it was pretty cool with these columns. Just lighthouse in the Chesapeake Bay. We stopped at Annapolis. This was right there in the downtown waterfront. And one thing that was exciting was when we were off the coast of Jersey, we got really close to a whale. And so this is a whale with its pectoral fins slapping on the water, like doing a mating call. So it got closer than I would like to admit, as in thump. And had to get the picture in front of Statue of Liberty, Lady Liberty. That's when you do this trip, you always hope there's another fellow looper there that you take pictures of each other and exchange. So we're excited to get that picture. And then this is West Point as we went up the Hudson River. The Hudson was just beautiful. And then going across the Erie Canal, this is like every day is not a cakewalk. You know, it's not umbrella drinks every day. We are it's a long story short, is our holding tank needed to be pumped out. And at this marina, it was broken. So my husband went in there and worked on it and fixed it. So he's working on their pump out. This is at Watkins Glen, as I mentioned, down on the Finger Lakes that we visited. It's beautiful. And in Seneca Falls, here was a corner where first convention for women's rights. Niagara Falls, beautiful, obviously. And this was at Letchworth State Park in New York. That park is so beautiful, and there's, much less crowded than Niagara Falls. I think we almost enjoyed this Letchworth State Park more than Niagara Falls. And just lighthouses. This was in Cleveland, Ohio. We stopped. This was actually in Detroit. We enjoyed Detroit. They've done a lot of, their waterfront's really nice. This is just more lighthouses. And when we were up on Lake Michigan at one of the marinas. This guy was playing the bagpipes, and I guess he did that every night, which was kind of rare to see that. And in Sheboygan, we had our electric bikes delivered to us, and we were so excited, but wanted to show this picture of this Big Dipper. We gained a few pounds on the trip because we stopped at every ice cream place along the way. This is on Mackinac Island. This is the Grand Hotel. It was beautiful. And just the Mackinac Island is a beautiful place to visit if you haven't been there. And these were the mushroom houses, which are famous in Charlevoix. This is just different architecture. You know, more lighthouses on Lake Michigan. It was beautiful. I think this one was like a 2-mile sand road we had to ride down, and couldn't take cars there. We had some friends visit us in Chicago, some neighbors. That was, and they took us to one of their spots that they went to like 20 years ago for, I guess they call them beef sandwiches. It's not a Italian beef, and oh, it was so good. Then a picture in St. Louis in front of the arch, another picture that everyone has to take as they go through there. This was actually in Paducah, Kentucky at what are these? These are, help me out.
Quilts?
Yes, the Quilt Museum. And this was a 9/11 memorial, and we were there right at September 11th. And so they have this memorial wall with these 9/11 quilts, and that quilt museum is just amazing. I mean, it's, you know, definitely lots of works of art, and anyone that goes there, even if it's against their will to go in there to begin with, is amazed at the artwork there. So that's in Paducah, Kentucky. That was a neat stop. And here's the one of the bears we saw at the Smoky Mountain, Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Is interesting. In like the first hour, we saw like 4 or 5 bears, and you know, some people have been going for years and haven't seen them. So we felt like we got our money's worth. We stopped at Chattanooga, going up the Tennessee River on our way to Knoxville. That really is a neat city. There's a lot of music. It kind of, to me, feels like, okay, if they're not in Nashville, they must be in Chattanooga, but there's a lot of music, and they have this really neat pedestrian bridge that crosses the river, and they've got buskers out there. So it was a neat stop, and they are known for, they have an awesome aquarium there. Okay. And I know I'm running out of time, and I think that might be it. That's our, the yellow flag there. And real quick, I'm going to go back to last couple of pages that I had. I've got to figure out where that is. Not sure. Let's see. Can you see my presentation now?
No, it hasn't flipped yet.
How about now?
Nope, not yet.
How about now?
Nope, it's decided it wants to keep showing us the flag. Oh, wait, there you go. There you go.
Okay. Okay, real quick. So, you know, for us, that trip was like a bucket list. And it really, there was a point in our life, you know, you just go on and on every day, and everything, you know, with life, it's hard to like change and do something different. But we could see that there is like this window, kind of a turning point in our life that allowed us to do this trip. And so instead of just waiting for the perfect time, we said, let's do it. We seized the moment. And it was something where we'd been boating for a while. So, you know, we had the skills to do it. So we really, within a short window, we probably decided within 6 months of when we left to do it. But, you know, we both committed to, we're going to make this happen, and we're both going to participate and, you know, do our part. And we pretty much had to divide and conquer to get it all done. because there was lots of stuff about boat parts, permits, all that. But it made a difference, with my husband and I kind of agreeing, being on a team, we were both committed to this goal to do it. So it really worked out well. And the one thing I wanted to point out, and I think this is my last slide, is that I'm really a believer that life is so much more meaningful when we have goals, wish lists, big dreams, big ideas, whatever it is. It just makes life so much more enjoyable, more meaningful, whether it's learning a new hobby, whether it's, purchasing your dream bike, retirement plans. Do you want to travel? Do you want to have a vacation home, some kind of different lifestyle, whether it's taking a sabbatical? We all need goals and dreams to work towards. Otherwise, life is just, it can be kind of boring, monotonous. And I know with this group, y'all are all motorcycle riders, you have a lot of adventure in your life. But I would encourage you, what is the next thing? What's your dream? What's your passion? And don't wait until retirement. Go ahead and do it now. We've known, I'm sure we all know a lot of people who, something happened, they didn't make it to retirement, or they retired and they got sick and, couldn't do what they wanted to do. So I'm a real proponent of figure out what your passion and your dreams are and start doing it now. The other thing is the earlier you start, you can see, well, do I really like it? And, sometimes also our spouses aren't keen on the same things that we want to do. But if you just take little baby steps with them, you might be able to get them on board much easier if you just do it a little bit at a time versus go all in and it not be a good experience for them. So really, that's what I would have to say is that find your passion, find your dreams, and figure out a way to make them work. Enjoy it now. That's all I got.
Anybody have
Sounds
any
like a lot of
questions?
fun.
Oh, it was.
Carol, I just want to know that I'm hurt that you didn't say hi. When you went through the Great Bridge Locks on the Intercoastal in Chesapeake, you were 3 miles from me.
Wow.
But fantastic trip. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, sure. I enjoy talking about it.
So you say you're going to
Anyone?
do it more than once. Are you going to do it again?
We sure would like to. One of the things since Canada was closed, that's a big highlight for a lot of people. And so we feel like we missed out, that we kind of got cheated out of that. And we love Bahamas. And as I mentioned, because you kind of keep on the move, there's no way to see everything. So yeah, we would like to do it again. It's hard in life, and it's amazing how, I say, just do it. And we haven't been home quite 6 months and I already feel stuck again. It's hard to make big changes. And, I've got an elderly mother that kind of keeps me here too. So.
So
Have
did I
you
hear right?
decided-
You said that people do this on a Sea-Doo or a jet ski?
They have, not very often,
Wow.
but it has been done.
That would be like
Challenge
the
accepted.
motorcycle equivalent, right?
Yeah.
So you can't sleep in your Sea-Doo, so that would be
No,
pretty
I guess
raw.
they collapse to a hotel and yeah.
Okay.
So have
Nice.
you guys, all right, did you have an absolute favorite spot that you were like, oh, wow, it was so amazing, we want to go back?
The areas were so different. And also, I think a lot of times it's the experience you have with people, not necessarily the place you were. I think we enjoyed the Great Lakes a lot more than we thought we would. It's beautiful up there. And obviously I really enjoyed the Bahamas, but yeah, it's hard to just pick a favorite. It's kind of like a parent with their children.
So did you go to Bimini? Where were you out in the Bahamas?
Yeah, we actually went, we checked in at Bimini and then we went down through the Exumas and down as far as the Ragged Islands. We stayed down there for a month down yeah, down at Hog Key and Duncan. And yeah, that was kind of our favorite in the Bahamas, was down there. It's pretty remote, but that was part of the reason we liked it.
Nice.
Have you picked a next great adventure?
We haven't, again, since it kind of feels like we haven't completed this adventure yet. My guess is, before we do something totally different, we probably will do this again. We do have a small little travel trailer, and so we're looking to go here in the next month or so, spend a month out west, like going to the Grand Canyon in Utah and doing some of that, and trying to dry camp, or what they call boondocking. And we haven't done that before. So that's a little bit of, feels adventurous, just because you got to figure out how you're going to kind of survive without, all the normal resources.
Oh, nope, that makes sense. It's really funny because I think I've had a very similar discussion with some people recently that don't wait. You know what? You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And if you get a chance to do it today, you might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming to speak. Your pictures are amazing. And I got to, of course, watch a lot of this. And I think that picture of Russ inside the container fixing the pump, because I remember you had a whole post about, yeah, there he was. He's out there, every day's an adventure on the boat, and got to fix things. So, since we are coming up on the end of our meeting time, do I have someone who would love to volunteer to give the 4-way test? Do I have a volunteer? Keith.
Okay, of the things we think, say, and do in our everyday life, number 1, is it the
Is it
truth?
the truth?
Number 2,
Two.
is it fair to
fair to
all
all?
concerned?
All concerned.
Number 3,
3,
Will
Well,
bring
is
goodwill.
is it
goodwill and better.
goodwill and
Better
better friendship? And 4, will it be beneficial to all
All
concerned?
concerned.
And 5, will
Is it
it
fun?
be fun?
Thank you, Keith. Thank you
Thanks,
all
Keith.
so much for coming today. We will meet again next Wednesday. Thank you, Carol,
Carol.
so much for presenting. We
Thanks,
really
Carol.
appreciated it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Right.
enjoyed
You
it
and
too. Stara went a little long.
Oh, no,
Oh,
you're
that was
fine. And
great.
call me. We'll get together, okay?
Deb, thanks for stepping up and running the meeting. You
Not
did
a
great.
problem. Thank y'all. I will talk with many of you very soon.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Have a
Thanks.
good night. Look at that.